Okay, this might be a little cringe, but I don't really care, so... Last time on Darkest Dungeons. After having had all 4 of his resolve level 5 characters kick the bucket to the Brigand Volv, MATSKO went into a fit of psychosis, fueled by the boiling rage only matched by the burning pyre of 1,000 suns, and Chris Brown towards his wife. In his fugue state, he went on a rampage starting at his local Amish community, doing things that I can only describe as not TV appropriate dudes. After a 72-hour escapade, he was arrested and later tried under the court of law, sentenced to not guilty by plea of insanity, and due to his temporary mislapse in judgment, was given the chance to potentially be given parole on account of good behavior. Now within the darkest moments of his journey, will MATSKO crawl out of the metaphorical dungeon of his own mind and beat the game? Or will he be stuck in the loony bin for the rest of his days? Find out tonight on Darkest Dungeon in agonizing analysis. Okay, fine, fuck it, I'll use the meta. You know, I tried to be a good person, I really did try, but by the Lord, I'm getting kicked in the nuts every time. For every single small victory, I have been plagued by debt, death, and depression. So you know what? I don't care anymore. You know what I said about doing a moral run of this game? That's gone! I lied! Crank the efficiency up to 11 on MATSKO's wild ride. You're gonna drink the bottles you piss in and eat the corpses of your dead coworkers. And you're gonna love it. The great thing about Darkest Dungeon is that it actively rewards you for having the moral compass of Mao Zedong. Caring about your recruits' mental health and well-being? No need with this all-new innovation of torchless runs. Remember that time I said you should always keep your torch light above 75 at all times to maintain buffs during your run? The great thing about that is that I also lied. While it is true that enemies get increased stress, crit chance, and damage, your party gets increased crit chance as well as increased loot the lower your light level becomes. To say you make bank during these runs is an understatement. You make the whole ass Federal Reserve. You are a motherfucking economy. And the best part is, you don't need to worry about potentially losing money from trying to cure your elite troops from afflictions. Just grab a couple of Resolve Zero boys, throw them in the meat grinder, and kick them to the curb as you profit from their agony. You say they died from a heart attack during a run? Real shame, I say, as I sit atop my smog-ass gold vault, lighting a Cuban cigar with $100 bills. Bonus points if you're sending in antiquarians with trinket scrounge. Antiquarian champion runs are literal highway robbery. But only if you do it in the wield. It's a fantastic risk-reward system. Torchlight itself is already a great mechanic to add, giving players a sense of urgency to try and maintain it, especially if you're low on torches and you're near to completing a run. So flipping it on its head to purposely have no torchlight for your own benefit is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And for your high-level characters, I introduce your holy trinity, the Magna Carta of all of your loadouts from now on. Stunning, shielding, and riposting. Are you fucking kidding me? I asked for an alliteration. What do you mean riposting doesn't have a synonym with an S? Who wrote the script? MATSKO? Can't write for shit. I want him gone. Shielding refers to various abilities characters can have that block attacks and trade it for their own health, allowing heroes to tank for each other. Stunning is a stun, that's it. It doesn't sound good, but when you're playing a turn-based combat game, never letting your opponent fight sounds like a pretty good option, doesn't it? And riposting, which means make a quick, clever reply to an insult or criticism. The reply being a large iron club that's about to cave in your skull, of course. Some attacks allow you to get a riposte buff, so if an enemy attacks you, you can attack them again. Very useful if you're marked. That's why the Man-at-Arms is arguably the best class in the game. Not only do you have all 3 of these things, they are at their full potential with him. You can protect your Vestal, riposte to mark yourself while also getting a crit, then buff your characters with an increased dodge, and then stun the enemy, and then get a Medal of Honor, shake hands with the President, and get head all at the same time. Still, the Man-at-Arms can't do everything. For example, can he help me with the fact that I lost all my top tier equipment in the mission? Oh, okay, I see now. After losing about 8 or so trinkets from your heroes dying, you'll be given the chance to get them back through a boss called the Shrieker. It's this large mutated crow fellow who pooped out the trinkets from the desecrated corpses of your fallen comrades. It scales up in difficulty depending on what heroes are available, and it's actually quite a fun fight. The Shrieker is one of the fastest bosses in the game. Combined with the fact that it's given 3 moves a turn, juggles itself in your party like a clown car hit and run, and gives a huge chunk of stress damage on most of its moves, and you can easily get bodied if you're not properly managing your characters. Thing is, that never really happens because technically you don't even have to kill the Shrieker to actually win. This can be done in 2 ways, one being destroying the Shrieker's nest, as the nest has far less health than Big Bird, or simply waiting out a couple of rounds until he flies away from the dominant predator, baby! Whoa! Of course, you get the trinkets you lost back because but he also gets special trinkets and quirks by actually killing the Shrieker. This ain't Weenie Hut Juniors, of course. You're still gonna get your daily dose of depression when fighting Poe's Fursona. Well, alrighty, we got some morally questionable golden heirlooms, and my trinkets are back. Smooth sailings from here on out. Champion difficulty. If apprentice to veteran separates the boys from the men, champion makes the men cry like the sissy little femboys that they are. Of course, it adds the obvious: increased health, more protection, damage for enemies, better loot from mission completion, all the general stuff. What I want to talk about are the new enemies that will elevate your sleep paralysis to nightmare paralysis. In champion difficulty, each area is given a unique high priority enemy that completely changes how you go about the encounter. Starting in the ruins, of course, we have the Bone Bearer, an unholy skeleton who acts like the dominant leader, hitting from the back. The Bone Bearer's presence increases the girth and power of the enemy's attacks. If the enemy is to die, the Bone Bearer will erect them from the ground, causing them to be rezzed, as they are finished only when the Bone Bearer says they're finished. Honestly, a very fun enemy to fight, creates a sense of urgency despite being able to be killed pretty easily. Highly recommend a Plague Doctor or an Arbalist. For the wield, we have the Hateful Virago, a Witch Doctor enemy that focuses on debuffing you and marking targets. On their own, they aren't much of a problem, but they are never on their own. They usually come with the 1.5th new enemy, the Giant. The Giant in veteran difficulty was never much of a problem, albeit he was a bit annoying. But this isn't veteran, isn't it? It's champion. With the increased accuracy and the damage that champion enemies have, if you are at the right circumstances, the Giant can fucking one-shot you. And he never misses, and he has more health now, so now I'm starting to act up again. On an important note, at least I can make this joke. You've been struck by a smooth criminal. Another and very important thing about the Virago, she is the only enemy in the game that prevents you from healing. Quick tip: immediately kill her, or you will have a horrible, horrible death. Bring a Houndmaster or a Bounty Hunter. And now, we get to talk about the Swine Skiver. Found in the Warrens, the Skiver is a stone-cold motherfucker who will enslave your crops, burn down your wife, and grape your home. He has seen what you've done to his people, and he has an answer to the human question. Skivvies are a little tanky and mostly stay in the back, but the real charm comes from how much damage they can do to you and your party members. Crits are aplenty to the Skiver, for he has put Lady Luck's head on a pike. He can do poison, stuns, knockbacks, and debuffs. He's a real piece of shit. Once again, bring the Bounty Hunter and an occultist to heal. Now the Cove. Of course it's the Cove. Let's see what bullshit I'm receiving today. Give it to me, baby. Come on, hit me. This is underwhelming. Squiffy gas just kind of stresses people out, gives them horror. And it's the only unholy enemy in the Cove, I believe. That's it. Get a Jester and some laudanum. Intermission from gameplay, and I finally get to talk about arguably the best part of Darkest Dungeon, its presentation. There's no way to sugarcoat this. Darkest Dungeon just looks so cool, man. With the heavy elements of grimdark settings, Lovecraftian and gothic horror in the 17th century Europe, it gives such a cool fucking aesthetic. Everything is beautifully hand-drawn and these watercolors heavily shaded over, with these absolutely amazing character designs. Despite the weird-looking flat backgrounds of the dungeon crawling portions and animations that kind of make it look like Go Animate, it still feels really immersive. A large part of this is the music. There's two types of songs in the OST, just these beautifully long and melancholy ambience, giving you just a shrivel of motivation to keep on going while you're surrounded in sorrow. Or you feel like an anxiety-ridden paranoid who just hit some pre-workout and smelling salts as you grab the closest piece of rebar and challenge God. The added ambiance found in the stages is absolutely phenomenal too. Howling wolves against the night, chamber doors shutting down the metal frames, mysterious echoes from the hollowed-out cave. All while you hit a trap on accident because you're a retard. I don't know how an OST can make me feel so triumphant, while also making me want to give in to nihilism. 10 out of 10, despair is my favorite emotion. Not to mention, the music, art direction are all combined with the absolutely crispy sound effects, feeling like a dopamine hit straight to the eyeballs. Any single time you click on an interactable object. It's just... You know what, I'm just gonna play some footage.
Great heroes can be found even here.
But nothing, and I mean nothing, adds more to Darkest Dungeon's presentation than the Ancestor. As the de facto dungeon master of the game, and with all characters' fates remaining unclear, he's pretty much the only person you can rely on throughout the game, speaking in a ghostly echo added onto his voice as a reminder of what could happen to you. Every single line from the Ancestor is absolutely fantastic. I mean, they have to be. You're gonna be hearing them a lot, so you might as well be some of the best voice acting you'll ever hear. You could just hear the sheer bitterness in his tone. The self-hatred found in his inflection speaks to regret. A tragic, painful voice still trying to hide behind an opulent speech, knowing damn well that this hell is entirely his fault.
I was lord of this place before the crows and rats made it their domain. We dug for months, years, an eternity, and we were rewarded with madness.
The proud cheers as you kill an enemy, almost gilded in a thin coat of an evil snarl.
Press this advantage. Give them no quarter. Continue the onslaught. Destroy them all.
You can almost envision the smug-ass grin the Ancestor has as he gives a task to the Descendant.
Even the fiercest beast will lay down when it is not eaten. Steal their food.
Especially the grim gallows humor he has to help the player cope with the stress around them.
Monstrous size has no intrinsic merit, unless inordinate exsanguination be considered a virtue.
Basically, his voice is creamin', and he's making me creamin'. You can tell that Wayne June, the Ancestor's voice actor, put his heart into every single line. I wish he had a cameo or something. I'd pay him $50 to tell me happy birthday. To be fair, you get to hear it a lot. Maybe a little too much.
An eternity of futile struggle.
Yeah, this game is just a smidge buggy. Repeating voice lines, traps showing up when there's nothing showed. Whatever the hell this is. There used to be an infinite gold glitch that was common back in the day, and a lot of crashing. I don't know if it's just my computer for some reason. I don't think it is. I have a pretty damn good one. But Darkest Dungeon crashes a lot for my taste. One time during a recording session, I crashed 4 times in the span of 20 minutes, so I took a second, re-evaluated my life choices, closed the game, and then went for a bike ride. And while it does break immersion, I'm just used to it. In fact, I'm completely fine for it, for reasons that will be explained later. Next chapter.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Time for another great part about Darkest Dungeon. Its bosses. I've touched up on bosses earlier, but I'm talking about the real bosses now, ones devoted to specific areas. Every time you complete a mission in an area, you rank up in said area until you level up to unlock a boss. There's 2 bosses per region, each needing to be killed 3 times based on the difficulty, with each kill added to a checklist giving you more lore on the world around you. I will be placing each boss in a tier list based on how erect I feel when I kill the bastards. First up is the Flesh, my favorite boss and probably one of the hardest in the game even if you are well prepared. The Flesh is a failed experiment of the Ancestors that just kind of roams around bulking up. The main gimmick of the fight is the Flesh is constantly changing form. There's 4 distinct types of the body parts it can change into: the head, the butt, the bones, and the heart, each doing its own distinct attack. Each body part can have different protection depending on what type it is. I believe the bone has very high protection while the heart has 0 protection. So your main goal is to try and hit the heart and make sure it doesn't heal itself back up to full health. It drops the Flesh's heart, which is just fine, not bad, just mid. But like, the fight is super fun in its own, so I'm completely fine with that. A tier, only because of this trinket. The Swine God, the real experiment of trying to create life from the Warrens, is this rotund fellow with a slack jaw, truly the pinnacle of scientific advancement. The Swine God, for its grandeur, is more of a weapon for the real boss, Wilbur, with Wilbur commanding its attacks and doing some hefty smacks with a nice mark on top. Don't kill Wilbur first though, just don't, it's a bad idea, you will die horribly. You don't even need to help you too. He has the most health out of any boss in the game, but he also has no protection or speed, so he goes straight to the meat grinder quite easily. Lots of stuns, lots of marking, but solid fight overall. Wilbur's flag is also not bad, of nice 50% stun resistance. B tier for big, like the boss. The Siren from the Cove, an eldritch boss whose tactics include being a thought. The Siren was once an e-thought who got groomed by the ancestor into being his little kitten. He then led her to the ocean and drowned her because he was low on cash and the fish guys told him they'd buy him 2K if he did it. Remember kids, grooming underage girls in Discord isn't just a lifestyle. It's a profession. The Siren doesn't use many direct attacks. It's much more fitting that she uses her simps to attack for her and protect her. The Song of Desire allows her to have a chance to take any member of your party, which can be absolutely terrifying if used to its full effect. The thing is, it's never used to its full effect. Siren, without a doubt, is the easiest boss in the game. Like, I beat it without getting hit once. If you have an antiquarian in your party, this boss is a joke. And the trinket is bad. D-tier, not good. The Hag Witch. My god, the Hag Witch. The Hag took me 3 times to beat. Not for any particular reason about her, just the champion wield is bullshit. The Hag used to be the ancestor's side hoe, and then she got older and uglier, so he dropped her and returned to the grind set. The Hag deals a lot of small damage spread out to every party member, as well as debuffs and stress. The real problem comes from her pot. The Hag is into voring. She wants to eat you, but at least she cooks you first. At every chance she has, the Hag will try and put a hero in the pot, slowly killing them until they're put on death's door where you'll be dumped out immediately. So you either want to make sure you can get them out of the pot and maintain damage to her, or you could just bum rush her with 3 heroes. I did the latter. If you don't know what you're doing, this fight is exhausting, but if you do know, you know, that's pretty alright. The Hag's ladle, though, is fantastic. Amazing for Plague Doctor. Slap that into B tier. The Prophet, a great boss overall. His lore, he was kind of annoying to the ancestors, so he made them go insane by looking at what he found in hell. He ripped out his eyes and ran away naked. His boss fight, I must admit, is very lore accurate, as he's incredibly annoying and keeps dodging my shots. In the fight, he hides behind 3 wooden structures that take way too long to destroy, so unless you want to break them, you have to hit from range. However, if you do break them, you can take them after the fight and sell them for a lot of money, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. He also has a move very similar to Wolf, where he puts a timer on 2 positions, and when the turn runs out, a little quirky death's door or 2 happens. I don't know. Man-at-Arms is kinda necessary here, but honestly, a solid boss. And of course, the Prophet's Eyes. It's magnifique, S tier. The Necromancer. He used to work for the Ancestor on trying to figure out how to bring things back to life, until the Ancestor killed him, because once again, he's a petulant asshat. After death, he resurrected himself and took over the ruins. Wanna know why there's so many skeletons in there? It's this guy's fault. Also, my apologies for not using Champion Necromancer. The footage got corrupted because I must always be in anguish. The Necromancer is similar to the Siren in that it also focuses on summoning enemies to deal with the majority of the damage, while the Necromancer lays back and does small hits and stress while he summons a big fella every turn. Not a bad fight, but holy lord, the Necromancer's collar is absolutely insane against Unholy. Put that on a Crusader and never take it off. A tier. The Drowned Crew from the Cove. I'm not even going to talk about the boss. Gather round, children. Your dementia-ridden racist grandpa has a story to tell. I came into this fight with possibly the worst combination. A jester, a leper, a highwayman, and an occultist. The fight shouldn't be hard. The Drowned Crew themselves are pretty weak. However, because I had this party in particular, it was an absolute slog. What would happen would be the Drowned Crew would spawn an anchorman to trap either my leper or my highwayman, and when someone is trapped, the crew heals and gains 50% protection. The crew would trap, bleed, and stress my guys, but because I had an occultist and the jester, I would return back to normal after 1 turn. And since my damage characters would constantly be trapped and always be targeting the anchorman, any damage I did to the boss was nullified after a turn. I couldn't even leave the fight until one of my guys either got put on death's door or got an affliction, so I was just repeating the same thing over and over again for 20 minutes straight till I realized I had to purposely fail. I came back 1 run later and kicked its ass. At least the Cruise Bell is a good trinket, good for tanks. It's not saving it though, C tier. The Brigand's 16-pounder. Somehow it goes from the easiest boss to the hardest boss. It's this big Gustav cannon used by the Brigands for terrorism around the hammer. As you can tell, we have to get rid of it. Pounder is operated by a matchman whose only purpose is to shoot the cannon. If he shoots the cannon, it will give you a large boo-boo. Pounder can also summon the matchman and other Brigands to fight for it, as it seems the Brigands worship the machine. In the early game, it never hits you. In later game, you make sure it doesn't hit you. The Pounder also has a lot of health and protection, so you pretty much just kill the matchman, hit the Pounder doing a little bit of damage, and repeat it 50 times. Whoa, opinion, this is boring as shit. There is very little room to speed up the fight, and I feel no mirth defeating it. At least Abusement's matchstick is a great trinket, still D tier. Speaking of Brigands, I think I'm ready for round 2.
Thank you.
Jocko's dead, eat my cock. Though, let us take a minute to honor the Jester and Houndmaster who gave their lives to the mission. Not against both, though. They died because I forced them to get ancestor trinkets you can find on the mission. But was it worth it? Yes, it was incredibly worth it. I got ancestor trinkets and the best trinket in the game. Bolf's tassel and the bounty hunters like a chainsaw from Doom, absolutely shredding everything. Bolf goes straight to S tier immediately for the tassel. So, I've cleared out all of the areas for monsters, beat all of the bosses, returned the town to its zenith, got my heroes to renown 6, and pushed back the brigands. I think I'm ready now. Let's go grab that horse by its balls. I'm really continuing the horse bit. Oh my lord, why am I like this?
Fan the flames, mold the metal. We are raising an army.
The Darkest Dungeon, the endgame. Every single run, every single sacrifice, every single mistake has led up to this, the pinnacle of the game, and I am nervous as shit. I fail any one of these missions, I'm basically dead. I need nothing less than perfection, and for good reason. The Darkest Dungeon is without a doubt some of the hardest missions in the entire game. Without maxed out gear and a damn good team comp, you will get stomped on. I wouldn't even call them missions, they're more like raids. I will also be referring to them as that from now on. Shh. The Darkest Dungeon involves 3 raids, each with a specific objective in mind in order to close the gate. The first mission is We Are the Flame. Head to the Shuffling Horror and kill it. Oh baby, it's raid guide time! We Are the Flame is the first encounter for the Darkest Dungeon raid. Like the rest of the raid, it is darkest level, meaning level 6 heroes are highly recommended for optimal success. This encounter is a fairly linear succession of battles ending with a boss meant to teach you the mechanics of the raid. For team composition, while you are able to be flexible with loadouts, it's highly recommended you bring a stress healer and heroes that are consistent and high damage. Keep in mind, many enemies in the Darkest Dungeon are a combination between Eldritch and some other enemy type, so prioritizing increased Eldritch damage is also recommended. For my run, I ran Jester with Bright Tambourine and Sunring as a support attack hybrid, a Vesta with Sunring and Sacred Scroll as a dedicated healer and to help stun enemies, a Highwayman with Gunslinger's Belt and Eldritch Slayer Ring to maximize range damage at the first and second row, as well as a Man-at-Arms with the Flesher's Heart and Eldritch Slayer Ring to help tank damage, create party buffs, and repost enemies for extra damage. For provisions, I would consider maxing out on everything except laudanum, shovels, and keys, as many are not necessary for this encounter. An external map of the encounters is also up to you. Alright, let's go. The first 2 fights are meant to show you the 2 major enemies of the Darkest Dungeon, the Rapturous Cultists and the Cultist Priests. The Rapturous literally cannot hurt you. They can guard each other and can heal each other. The problem is when they're combined with the Priests, who are the prime reason the Darkest Dungeon is an awful experience. The Priests are able to use Deathlash to target your frontline heroes to decrease bleed resistance, then use to do a humongous amount of health and bleeds. I don't know the exact conversion, but I believe 2 humongouses is around 23 damage. We're getting off topic. Always prioritize these guys that can shred your party if you aren't careful. The next 2 fights aren't bad as well. They have upgraded versions of the Brawlers and Witches, so be careful of those too. But damn, for the hardest part of the game, I've been doing pretty solid. Crits have been plenty, it's been easy to heal, I have no stress, love to see it, fuck me. I mean, I could live with it. Probably. From then on, it's mostly the same type of fight, either some combination of Priest, Witch, Brawler, and then the Rapturous. Near the big bulge, I decided to camp to increase damage for the party. Same as before, there's a new enemy, but it only shows up twice, the Malignant Growth. It stuns and bleeds, but now it's starting to feel a little hard. Lightweight, baby! That's what we're talking about! After that, I'm just feeling dandy. I got most of my provisions left, so I eat up right before the boss. The shuffling horror fight is just the Shambler. Damn, that's actually kind of disappointing. On the bright side, because it is the Shambler, I get Ancestor Trinkets. The only difference between this fight and the Shambler is that it doesn't spawn the fleshlight, it's just more of... My Vestal died, rest in peace, but I was able to complete it. Not bad at all. A nice 15k and 3 incredibly important trinkets. A thing to note, now that you've gone to the darkest dungeon, 2 things will start to happen. The heroes that survived can no longer go back there as they got PTSD from that non-Euclidean geometry. So, try and make sure you have some loadouts ready beforehand for the other encounters. The darkest dungeon also happens to have an effect on, you.
The animatronic characters here do get a bit quirky at night.
It's fine. On to the second encounter, lighting the way. Lighting the Way is the second encounter and what many consider the hardest section in the darkest dungeon, once again at darkest difficulty. It is a long mission that involves placing 3 separate idols at 3 different locations spaced around the map. They are each guarded by unique mini-bosses called the Templars, who come in a poison and bleed variety, who will use an incredibly stress-heavy attack. For team composition, trinkets should focus on decreasing stress, and in order to complete the encounter, 3 of your characters must equip the Talisman of the Flame trinket, as fighting the Templars without them is essentially a death sentence. For this reason, a man-at-arms dedicated to protecting your hero without a talisman is highly recommended. For my personal loadout, I took in a bounty hunter with a Talisman of the Flame for optimal guarding and defense. You should also make sure when getting provisions, you should account for the 5 spaces taken up by the idols and the campfires, with bandages and antidotes being a requirement to prevent wiping on Templars. Alright, let's start. There's 3 areas. The top and the left have 1 Templar and the right side has 2 Templars. Decided to go left because I really don't know what to expect and this shit's gonna be hard. 2 fights later, even though I'm looking fine with a little bit of stress, I want to camp just so I can have buffs for the next 4 fights. We're trying to optimize this, alright? We're making the forward assembly line of double Ds. The Templar Impaler. One of the 2 Templars is this tanky gonorrhea milkman who is one of the reasons this is the hardest fight in the game. Insane blight damage, a move only prevented by needing a trinket, heavy knockback and stuns, all with a crispy amount of HP. The Bat Flemballs are just the literal meat cherry on top of the meat goo inside of the meat chalice, because this area is made of meat. Despite this, I was able to finish the fight with some effort. I really could use something to lower the stress, but we're alright. 1/3 the way. Oh yeah, this right out but too much. I can't let any of them get afflicted. I have to camp, but I have to give buffs now because there's 2 of them. Shredding down a warlord, that's lovely. Could still use some psychiatric help from my man-at-arms. I'm loving it. 2/3 of the way. I can do this. I can do 2 more fights. Nobody's gotten afflicted. I can be the Bleeding Templar. No bandages.
Grievous.
Yeah, I'm feeling that. Oh, I'm feeling that great! Can you not see my grin from ear to ear?
This is no place for the weak. This is no place for the weak.
I wish that my mic worked when recording this footage, so you could have listened to the fucking cackle I did. An evil, real cackle that has epitomized my experience playing this horrible, awful game made by sadists and bastards. For nearly 10 minutes, I sat there mid-combat, delaying the inevitable, mentally preparing myself for the fact that I will need to leave the dungeon, leaving behind one of my heroes. My best option was my bounty hunter. My first bounty hunter. My favorite hero. Because I absolutely needed the man-at-arms in order to beat it. I took my chances. and lost everything again. Time to get another man-at-arms. Part 2 of why Darkest Dungeon has stripped me of my sanity. The grind. You know that little section of the vid where it has me recovering from Wolf? That portion was around 5 minutes, give or take. Translating the gameplay, it was about 20 hours! Now, I love the combat in Darkest Dungeon. It's incredibly precise, it's captivating, and very immersive to the overall experience of the game. My problem stems from the fact that it gets a little too immersed where everything is bullshit and you never feel like you're getting anywhere. No matter how careful you play, eventually either you will mess up or the game will screw you over. It's not a question of if you will lose 30 hours of progress from a single run, but a question of when. Let's take, for example, in a hypothetical situation, you lose a good amount of level 6 heroes. It takes 48 renown to get them back to level 6, accounting for the fact that they might not be able to go the next run, plus the fact that you might not be able to use them due to stress or disease. You might be looking at around 10 weeks to fully replace a character. Of course, this is a guesstimate. I'm completely pulling this out of my ass, and you might be able to take a new recruit to a champion run and just shield them the entire time, but still, that's a lot of downtime just to get one hero back. And by the time you get to the late game, losing a hero doesn't have the same sadness as it did in the early game. You've already become desensitized to a character's death. You see heroes less like people and more a statistic and a set of modifiers. Great for making players feel like they've become the thing that they originally abhorred the ancestor for, but horrible for gameplay. I'm not angry because my favorite hero died in a last stand valiantly going against the odds until death eventually took its toll. I'm angry because now I need to stop everything I'm doing and replace him, costing me more time and more of my patience. That's why I don't care about quirks. I'm just gonna assume they die anyways, so what's the point of putting in the effort to slightly improve them? But MATSKO, maybe you're just shit at the game, and you know what?
You are correct, sir.
I am bad at Darkest Dungeon. I fully admit to this. I don't use stuns as much, I don't use the best trinkets, I don't min-max my characters to perfection. I was stupid enough to put in my Antiquarian alone in Torchless. Why am I like this? I am a grade A dumbass. But what I do have is a life. And I'm at least smart enough to recognize that this is a chore. I don't want to go home after a long day at the coal mines, hop on my PC, and then lose hours of progress in 15 minutes. It's incredibly demoralizing and, more importantly, not fun. That's why I play, to have fun. If it's not fun, why bother? I already lost my best chance at winning, can't use my trinkets, so why do I play this shitty game? What? Okay, so apparently there is an extremely precise glitch that happens when a character with a Talisman of the Flame dies in the Darkest Dungeon, and you must also escape with one of your characters with the Talisman also die. For some reason, the game registers you as having 1 or 2 talismans, and it gives you another one. You know what? I'll take another crack at it. I got my new man-at-arms as well. Let's go. Without a doubt, I started wiping the floor with this mission. The 4 talismans, I didn't even need the man-at-arms, but still took them in anyways for those sweet party buffs. The only thing I regret was not realizing how insane Helion was this late in the game. My own hubris stopping my insane strategic skills. Pegging is great. Nay, it's optimal. And with the Houndmaster not needing to be the main attack hero, he could just make sure my guys weren't stressed to high hell. I didn't make this mission a joke. I produced and directed a whole-ass Seinfeld episode. I lit the way, defeated the monster guarding the gate. It's time to delve into the Leviathan, the belly of the beast. The Belly of the Beast is the third encounter to the darkest, okay, the bit's not funny anymore. Bring a plague doctor, a healer, a Helion, and any trinket you want. This is what I ran. This is supposed to be an exhausting mission, so bring as much food and torches as humanly possible. And most importantly, a map of the area. But this is it, the longest, hardest, most sweat-fested mission in the entire game. This is what 100 hours of playtime accounts to. I'm ready, and I already beat it. Belly of the Beast should be the hardest mission in the game. That is a certainty. It's the only exhausting mission. You're fighting the enemies from the Templar fights, mini Templars called snipers, and you have to deal with these giant mini-bosses called the Mammoth Cyst. I'm calling them Mammoths. And while the Mammoths are difficult, if you have a map, you're able to fight at most 3 of them. Because darkest missions have a static map, and Belly of the Beast's difficulty relies on the player having no idea where the Locust Beacon is, forcing them to slowly start to panic as their supplies dwindle, fighting more and more mammoths just to find the damn thing. Having a map makes it, I wouldn't call it easy, but it's not as hard as it should be. You can easily find the most optimized route for the least amount of mammoths, polyps, and hounds, and just heal up every other room with their 4 campsites. It feels disappointing. It's kind of the reason I didn't want to go into the game with a guide. I wanted to experience this. And while I'm glad I got through with it after lighting the way, I feel like an asshole doing it. This area is so cool, man. Why am I shit at this game? But yeah, we find the hard place to teleport and rightfully get the fuck out so another team can face off against whatever's through there. For the last fight, I decided to bring in my 2 original heroes I picked up. Sigmund, the grave robber, and Postel Dude, the bounty hunter. They made it to the end. They deserve it. Fun fact, Postel Dude has been resurrected 3 times because of a town event. Also, town events are a thing. I kind of forgot to mention that. For team comp, pick anything. Your favorite heroes, here's an easy fight. Because you are awesome.
Yo, sup,
Holy crap, it's the Darkest Dungeon Ancestor.
Damn right I am.
So why are you here? I thought you died.
Nah, G, was crapping the whole time. I'm actually like the Heart of Darkness and shit. Like Callus from Destiny or something.
So wait, are you the Ancestor or a demon?
I'm straight up demonic. Wait, let me hit my card real quick. Is this gas station weed?
Get to the point already!
Oh yeah, might be. Finna keep it up $1.50. Everything you did was pointless, and you're an awful person.
I'm a bad person.
On Yog Sothoth, bruh.
My uncle in Christ, you became the Herald of Evil.
You ever heard of Tenacussy? Shit's bust. Besides, I've seen how you've been acting. Sending people to die and shit. Actually devious.
At least I tried. Oh, and may I remind you, this is all your fault.
My fault? You're the one who played this goofy-ass game to begin with. Yeah, nah. You never liked it since the beginning. What was the point? You think the grind's too hard, gameplay's repetitive, and way too stressful because you're a bitch-ass cracker.
Slander.
It's libel because it's scripted.
I don't care! This game is rewarding, alright? I love it. It's like climbing a mountain.
That you used an escalator to get to.
Come again, jackass?
The Talibans. You think someone just gets those on accident? No, it was MATSKO.
Watch your motherfucking tone.
Bet this vid only gets 100 views max.
Oh, you little shit!
Ah, white boy mad.
I hope your innards become outards.
Alright, I'ma head out. Gotta hop on Fortnite with my yellow thought up shorties. Later, slat.
Oh, no you don't! Despite probably being one of the easiest fights in the game and being a bit long, it's actually quite enjoyable. It's separated into 4 stages. First you fight the Ancestor's clones, hurting the corrupted ones puts damage onto the boss. Next you fight the actual Ancestor, probably the best part of the fight. Next is the Heart that barely does anything. The final stage is the He's not bad. He kills 2 of your characters and you get to choose, so that's pretty cool. Oh, I've been waiting to do this for a while. Nice. Now the ending. Originally, I was going to make a long-ass rant about why it sucks and it's the epitome of my problem with the game, but let's be real. You don't care, and I don't care anymore, because you know why? I'm happy again. I don't need to care anymore. I beat the game. I can sleep well at night knowing I can happily delete the whole terabyte of footage I've sat on for a year. I can play Vermintide 2 now. And honestly, that's the true ending to Darkest Dungeon. Not this. This. But I might as well wrap it up with some extra content. If by chance you thought Darkest Dungeon wasn't hard enough, I present the DLCs, the Crimson Court and the Color of Madness. They each add new areas, new bosses, and a new game mode called Blood Moon that's only 16 hero deaths plus the Crimson Court. But most importantly, I hear they are very, very good. There's also an entire free PvP mode called the Butcher's Circus. Honestly, very good, well balanced. And hey, if you played through all of that, there's mod support for the game. You can indulge in your disgusting fantasies, or indulge in my disgusting fantasy. There's even an entire new fan game being made for it called Black Reliquary. If it didn't look so damn impressive, I would have told the devs to go please see the sun. But I'm not going to do that, because they are great people. And that is Darkest Dungeon. So, final thoughts. Is Darkest Dungeon worth it? Despite the crashing, despite the difficulty spikes, despite the grind, despite the stress from playing the damn game, even with all that, I still recommend Darkest Dungeon. Red Hook has made a damn good game, and they clearly put their heart and soul into it. Some things may be flawed in my eyes, but to others it's exactly what they've always wanted from a game. Red Hook has meticulously crafted an amazing world, a dark fantasy nightmare that always pushes you forward against all odds. A long dark cave with a single candle bringing you hope. You just need the right person to explore it. There are no bad games, only different players. And hey, at the end of the day, it's only $4 on Steam. That's a pretty damn good deal if I say so myself. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a great night.